Jenn Collins is the Chief Self-Care Officer at and founder of the Mama Needs subscription box. Jenn is on a mission to help mamas understand the need for self-care and give them the tools and inspiration to prioritize it. Married to her high school sweetheart and mama to 3 amazing kids, Jenn and her family live in North Carolina, where they still can't believe that they get to see mountains every day. So welcome, Jenn.
Hi, Jen.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Double N Jens.
Yes, there are so many of us. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I find more and more. But when I was in college, my friends called me Iffer because they're like, if you're going to keep both of the N's, then we're just going to go with the other part of the name. So,
oh
Jennifer.
Gosh, how lovely.
Right. Oh, well, your bio told us a little bit, but where did you grow up? How did you land in the mountains of North Carolina?
Yeah, I did not grow up here. I am actually from the Sunshine State. I am from the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. And lived there my entire life until I went off to college. And after we got married, we actually did a very short stint in Lexington, Kentucky, where my husband went to college.
Okay.
And then we moved back down to Florida. And what changed was we were really in a place of burnout at our jobs that we were at. And we knew we wanted to do something different. We wanted to start a business. My husband wanted to start his own thing. And we had some friends that were up here where we live, which is Franklin, North Carolina. It's really in the middle of nowhere, but it's about 2 hours from a bunch of big cities. And we're pretty close to Asheville. So we knew 2 people here. They offered my husband a part-time job so that he could get some money while launching his business. And I had come to this area growing up every single year. My grandparents used to live nearby. I loved this area. We both did. And we just said, we want a change of pace, a slower pace of life, lower cost of living. And it was a really tough decision. We left family and friends, but ultimately it was really the best thing we ever could have done for our family. And of course, I miss my beach. I miss my son, especially right now, wintertime, and, my family and everything. But they visit here, we visit there, and it's just been amazing. So.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, what are some of your favorite things to do in the mountains? And do you ever trek over to the coast to go to the beach, or do you save that for trips home to Florida?
Yeah, we haven't been over to like the Outer Banks of North Carolina, although that is on our list. It's just so far because we are in such of the western part of the state that it's almost less time to drive to Florida than it is to drive to the other side of North Carolina.
Yeah.
So we haven't been over there yet. I would love to, but I feel like we're just so lucky because, when we lived in South Florida, everyone thinks that you just live at the beach. Everyone thinks you're beach bums. Like, how do you even get any work done? And I'm like, actually, we rarely get to go because we're so busy. And especially we were in that like burnout place. We were not going to the beach. And so I feel like we're so lucky here because I literally get to look out my window here and see the mountains. Whereas when I lived in South Florida, it was a rare occurrence that I got to go to the beach. And even then it was like a special trip, it was about 15, 20 minutes away. And it's a whole ordeal to bring kids to the beach, or we just go down there to eat. And, it just wasn't the same. So now I just get to look and see them anytime I want to, which is fabulous. But we love to go hiking here. Our little town is right off of the Appalachian Trail. So we're one of the stops people can get off when they're hiking and come down into our town and, refresh their supplies or stay overnight for a few days if it's snowing or if it's rainy. So it's a big hiker culture here, which is really fun. It's been fun to kind of get into that and see what that's all about. So we have tons of trails and the creeks here are in abundance, and it's just a lot of fun to live here. It's great.
Well, it sounds fabulous.
Yes, the kids love it. They were really little when we moved here. And so this is kind of all they know now.
It's home. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, in 30 seconds or less, why don't you just tell us what your business is and the problem you solve and who you serve?
Yes. So my business, like you said in the intro, is Mama Needs Box. It is a monthly self-care subscription box for moms. I also host a podcast called the Mama Needs Podcast, which where I interview moms to share their stories. We talk about all the things that mama needs. And the problem that I solve is that moms, we all know that we need self-care. We all know it's important, but we rarely make the time, the budget, and the budget to do that. And we feel guilty. And so my whole goal is to provide a service and a product that you can receive and use and open right away without the guilt. And I show you how to make the time, and it's an investment in yourself. So that's what I do.
Well, that's fabulous. Self-care is a topic that's kind of near and dear to me because it was really only in these past few years that something clicked and I had this mindset shift from moving it from selfish care to something more essential. But before we get into your business, let's start with your why. So self-care, like my perception was it was selfish, and you alluded to this guilt. What does self-care mean, and why is it something that you're passionate about?
I feel like self-care means so many things to different people. Well, the act of self-care can be so different. What fills you up may not fill me up. But ultimately, I feel like self-care is just a way of getting filled up, a way of taking care of yourself that will then allow you to serve your family from abundance rather than overwhelm. We want to serve from that overflow. And so why I'm so passionate about it is just because of my oldest is 13. And so I've been a mother for 13 years, and I've seen ebbs and flows in my own motherhood journey of just, taking the time, not taking the time, feeling pulled in different directions, feeling guilty all the time, feeling completely out of balance a lot. I mentioned that we were in kind of a space of burnout. And during that time, I did not take care of myself, and I was really on the brink of a nervous breakdown, I believe. I was even in counseling at the time, and it still was very much at the surface. So I've been in that place of burnout, and I know how it feels, and I never, ever, ever want to get back there because it turned me into a mom that I knew I didn't want to be, which was yelling, short fuse, impatient, not intentional. And I knew I could not live in that space for very long. And so for me, self-care was really an act of survival and getting my life back to how I wanted it to be, so that I could be the mom I wanted to be, and so that I could be healthy and healthy, not just physically, but really emotionally and mentally. It was what it was for me. So yeah, that is why I am super passionate about it, because I just don't want other moms to get to that place where I was. So
yeah, so you're kind of stepping in, going, learn from me. Don't get there. I'm going to help you avoid that edge of the chasm. So
yes, exactly.
yeah. Well, you have 3 kids, and your youngest is of that age, of probably being able to do quite a bit for himself. But when your kids need you, no matter the age, they need you. So what does self-care look like for that mom who is in the trenches where their kids need them all the time?
Yes. Obviously, I have been there. I have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And so, yes, my youngest is definitely so much more independent than he used to be. And I started my business actually when he was 3, because he finally was starting to go to preschool. And I finally felt like, oh, I can breathe and
I'm human.
Yes, I'm a human. I have talents and skills. And I was like, oh, I want to do something, with all this newfound freedom while he's at preschool. So I think the first thing you have to do is think about the season of life that you're in. I actually think that when you're in the trenches, it's when you have kind of a newborn, or when you have like a young baby, or like a baby and a toddler. Like those are kind of the trenches seasons to me. And honestly, like I said before, there's seasons, and what self-care looks like for me right now with a teenager, a preteen, and a 6-year-old is completely different than my friend who just had a baby and has a toddler right now. Yeah. And so she has to do what she needs to do to practice self-care, and mine's going to be different. And so when you're in the trenches, I feel like you're kind of in survival mode, and you really just need to kind of do the next right thing to get you to a place of rest and to take care of yourself. And so whether that's asking your husband, your mom, your mother-in-law, a babysitter, your little sister who can babysit, whatever, to just come and let you sleep for a little while, so that they can hold the baby or feed the baby, whether it's instead of breastfeeding your baby overnight, every night, maybe having enough supply, pumping enough supply, or having some formula on hand so that somebody else can feed your baby. And, you don't have to do every feeding. I think there's so much freedom in motherhood that we don't give ourselves, especially when we're in the trenches, because, we think we have to do it all. And that's totally normal. We've all felt that way, but we don't have to do it all. And I think there's so much to say about inviting somebody in, even if it's your own husband, inviting somebody in and being like, I need help. Can you do this for me so that I can get some rest because I haven't slept in 2 days, or whatever it is. Yeah. Or let's say, maybe the trenches doesn't look like a newborn for you, or a newborn and a toddler. Maybe it looks like a full-time job with 3 kids at home, whatever the case may be. You have to figure out what season of life you're in, number one, and what is realistic for you. So what is actually going to work with your schedule? Who can you ask to help? What kinds of things actually fill you up and make sense for your season and are realistic for you? Because you don't want to just do random things that won't actually fill you up. And you've gone to all this trouble to get somebody to help you. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I didn't even actually like doing that. Yeah. So, maybe that's just getting somebody to come over so that you can go to a coffee shop and have some quiet time with a friend. Yeah. Maybe it's dropping your kid off at Mother's Day out, if you have that where you live, and so that you can take some time for yourself. You don't have to be always on, 24/7 all the time, 100%. So I think, like I said, it's just being realistic, figuring out what season you're in, and figuring out what really does fill you up, so that when you actually do have that time, that you make the most of it.
You can do it. So I heard you just say 2 things in there. And one is that, we don't have to do it all ourselves. I think we sometimes confuse being responsible for with actually executing it, and that's where we get in trouble and start to deplete our resources. Yeah. But the other is really that self-care is very personal. And the only should around self-care is that we should make it a priority. Otherwise, there is, a manicure for one person is a luxury for the other, but a nap for one person, it's very different.
It really varies. And there's so much you can do. It's a fun exercise to sit down if you can, or like while you're feeding your baby or whatever you're doing, get your phone out and make a list. Make a list of what you actually like. I realized a few years ago, I don't actually like pedicures. Like I'll go with my mom because I like to go with her and have that time together, but it's not actually my favorite thing. I don't love people touching my feet. So
no foot rubs either.
Only if my husband does it. Yeah. But I like the end result because my toes look cute at the end and I feel like kind of put together. But it's not my favorite thing. It doesn't completely fill me up. So I would prefer, maybe doing something else, maybe to get my hair cut, or maybe to go and watch a movie with a friend, or go and get some coffee, or just literally sit in silence in my house even. I can't tell you how many times I've done that and just been like, that's what I needed right now. That's what I needed is just quiet.
Well, and that's wise to make that list because it could turn into oh, poor me, these are the things I don't have time for. That's not the intent. But we think of things when we can't really do much about it, and then we forget them when we need them. So by having that list, when you
Mm-hmm.
do have this 30 minutes, you can go, oh yeah, I forgot. I like to read. I can read for
Exactly.
30 minutes. So
Oh, there's this huge pile of books on my nightstand. Like,
yeah,
let's do something about that. Yeah, I
right.
love to read. I just haven't had time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
excellent. So how do you get from moms need self-care to I'm going to start a subscription box business?
Yeah, because I've really been passionate about it for some time, even before I started my business. I would have friends ask me for advice, and I'd be like, "What are you doing to take care of yourself?" Because I had already been there. I'd already been in that really dark chasm of just not taking care of myself, feeling completely burned out, stressed out, overwhelmed. My body was fighting against me, infections and then mental stuff too. Just I was not in a good place. So like I know what that feels like, and I don't want people to get there. And so I was already doing that. I was already kind of giving people advice only when they would ask me, obviously. I was leading Bible studies with mainly moms and already kind of serving in that space. And so, like I said, when my youngest son was 3 and he was going to be starting preschool a few times a week, I was like, I want to do something. I want something to do. I was stay-at-home mom at that time after previously working outside of the home full-time, even more than full-time. And so I really needed that break of being at home, even though it's a lot of work to be at home. I just really needed that break. And so finally I felt like, oh, I can do something now. I feel good now. I'm in a good space, and my other 2 are in elementary school. Let's do this. And so it just took a lot of time. Honestly, it took almost a whole year. I was trying to figure out like what I want to do, praying about it. Lord, I know what I'm good at, but what should I do?
Yeah.
And subscription boxes were definitely a thing at that time, which was in 2018, which is when all this started. But they weren't as popular as they are now. And so I kind of looked into those and found a course on how to launch a subscription box. And I was going to be the first class to go through the course. And it was a big investment. And that was scary because I'd never invested in myself before. And of course, all of those feelings started to come out of, am I worth this? What if I get tired of it? What if I fail? What if? And ultimately, I just came to, my husband was behind me 100%, but it just came to, I'm going to regret if I don't do something. I'm going to regret this. And just with brainstorming, getting that course, self-care for moms, I literally wrote it down in my notebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. And so I got my phone and was looking through Instagram because I thought, how can I involve other moms in this? And so I was like, oh, I follow this mom-owned business, and I follow this mom-owned business, and maybe I could order their products and put them in the box. And so it just became this thing where my brain was going so fast that my hand couldn't catch up in the notebook with just tons of ideas and thoughts and feelings. And that's how it started. And that course was invaluable to me because it helped me launch it in 3 months, right in time for Christmas in 2018. Wow. And so now I'm going into my 4th year, and it's been a ride with lots of ups and downs. It has not been easy, but it's been mostly fun. And I've learned so much. I've met so many incredible people, and just the impact that I'm seeing, that is everything, because the end goal is, yes, I want to offer this product to moms to help them remember that they matter, and to help them practice self-care, give them the resources and the tools and the inspiration. But really, that has a lasting impact. And so that lasting impact is what I have my eyes on. Like, yes, I want them to feel good now, but it can change the course of their families. It can change generations of moms before us saying, I'm not going to take care of myself. What does that even mean? I remember my mom, who is in her 60s, saying self-care wasn't even a thing when I was having kids. And so she thinks this whole thing is hilarious, but awesome. Like, she's on board. She gets the box every single month. Actually, of course she does. She's
That's
my mama.
great. Yeah.
But she's learned a lot from me, which is really humbling, because she had a lot to teach me, obviously, about motherhood. But she's been that example of our generation didn't take care of ourselves. And so I'm so glad you're equipping and teaching and inspiring this next generation of moms to do it differently, to do it better than we did, and not have that burnout. And so that's really the end game here.
Yeah, that's great. And I think in some ways, the earlier generations, not that they didn't need it, but when you're working off of oil lamps, you go to bed earlier, and so some of it seemed like it was built in. But now we're just in this pressure cooker society where it's constant. It needs to be looked at differently than it needed to be.
Well, and the
before.
culture was so different before.
Slower.
Yes. And then just also the roles of husband and wife were so different than they are now, where women didn't really work. And so they had the load of everything else.
Right.
And now, the past, 50 years, women are majorly in the workplace. My mom worked part-time, but she still carried the majority of the load. And so now that my husband and I, we established our own family, and from the beginning we said, we want to share the load. And so that is a huge, part of our marriage. Is just, it's a partnership really of us, being like, okay, tag you're it. I need you to help me with this. Okay, I helped you, now tag you're it. I need you to help me with this. But also sacrificially giving to the other person. And so it's just such a different culture.
Yes.
And I think that's huge too. But the idea is, this culture has been passed down from generation to generation. My mom's mom, her mom's mom. It's a real thing. And I kind of want to break that generational curse.
Yeah, because you're right. We learn actively, but we also learn passively by watching what they do. And
exactly,
that's what you're helping here. Well, for every business goal, there usually is a corresponding personal goal or priority. And so as you started your business a few years ago, what were your priorities when it came to balancing business and family? And really, what was your greatest struggle when it came to integrating this together in everyday life?
Well, I had been in that burnout place, and I never wanted to go back. So I already had some key, markers in place to tell me when, some red flags that would come up. I learned a long time ago, just really learned how to set up good boundaries. And learn how to say no even when something is good does not mean that you need to do it. And also going back to what we said before of, you don't have to do everything. And so just knowing kind of those things, I keep them in my mind at all times, and I just do what I can do. And so when I started my business, I knew, I wanted the flexibility to make my own day, to plan my own days and not have them planned for me. And so I love that flexibility of just being able to wake up, get my kids off to school, get done what I need to get done. And then it's time to pick them up. And I don't have to, be on my computer. I don't have to clock in and clock out. And so that was hugely important to me was, when I lived back down in South Florida and I worked full time, I could never pick up my kids, and I could rarely even take them to a doctor visit if they were sick. And that was devastating. And I constantly felt guilty about that. I can't even tell you how much time I wasted just agonizing over the pain of how that felt. And so it's really important to me now to be able to do those things. And I have the freedom. I've made a life where I have the freedom to pick them up from school every day, be that face that they see in the car line. And if you can't do that, it's okay. Like, that's just important to me. That's a personal choice that I have made. And so, I'm not saying like every kid needs that or anything, but it's just something that I wanted to provide for my kids. And so I just built kind of a business around motherhood. But my husband and my kids come first. every single time. They will never, ever come last again. Because back in that burnout phase, they, where I worked, they would say family is number one, family is so important. But the actual, when it came down to it, the actions did not match up with their words. And so that was really sad and frustrating. And so oftentimes I did have to choose work over family. And I just knew I wasn't ever going to do that again. And so I think when you're setting up a business, if you're an entrepreneur, I would just sit down and think of what's important to you, what really matters to you. And I just gave like a few examples of, picking my kids up and stuff, but those aren't the only things. But really, what boundaries do you need to set up? What can you let go of? What can you say no to so that you're not doing everything all by yourself? So those are kind of the things that I've set up. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, tell us more about the actual subscription box. What does a mom get each month, and how does she use it?
Absolutely. So the box is super cute. It's a mint green box. I don't have one in front of me. I should have done that, but you can go on our website and look at it. But it's a super cute mint green box, branded. And so it really makes a cool impression when you get it in your mailbox or at your doorstep. And right when you open it up, it says, "You matter, mama." So you have that, instant kind of, what is the word I'm trying to think of?
Affirmation or whatever.
Affirmation. Yes. Thank you. You have that instant affirmation of, this is special. I am special because I either, took the time to get this for myself, or somebody loves me and sees that I matter and they bought it for me. I would say about half of my orders are gifts, which is really fun. So it's a really fun gift to give somebody, especially for a baby shower or birthday or something like that. So every single month is a different theme, and all the themes are super fun and relevant. So just for an example, we just did Mama Needs Coffee. Every single month is Mama Needs something. Okay. And so coffee is one we do every single year. We do have some themes that we repeat, but everyone always loves the coffee one. And so we just did that one. Right now for April, we're doing Mama Needs a Spa Day. In July, we do a vacay box. In November, we do a cozy Mama Needs to Get Cozy box. And so every month is a new and exciting different theme. And then everything inside of the box is built around the theme. And so I include between 5 to 6, sometimes 7 different items, and they are pretty much exclusively, I tried 95% of the time, if not more, to every single product that's inside is from a small women-owned business. Because like I said before, how can I help moms? Not only is this box for moms, but everything inside is made by a mom or sold by a mom. And then it's curated by a mom. And so it's the ultimate mom experience. And when you're buying the box, you're actually supporting at least 5 to 6 other businesses, which is really cool. Again, just that ripple effect I love so much. And so we try to hit different senses in the box. So, sometimes there'll be something for the bath or the shower. There'll be maybe a mask, like a face mask. There could be a snack. There could be a tea or a coffee. There could be a book. Sometimes I include a book. There could be a journal with a pen. So it just really depends, and it depends on the theme as well. So they're just really fun things that you can use. And then the best part is, the last thing that we want is for you to open the box and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with all this stuff." And so we have an insert inside that has self-care tips, and it tells you how to use each thing, gives you kind of some ideas of what to do when you open the box. And so that really helps you kind of take what's in there and actually use it that month, and then get ready for the next month's box.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we talk a lot about mom teams here on This Mom Knows, and I think that's a key part of self-care. So who is on your mom team that you wouldn't want to live without? And I will say mom teams don't just have to be people. They can be tools as well and resources.
Yes. Well, I would say mine are people, because community is so important to me. And when you live when you live in a place that you grew up and then you move away to a small town, I'm from the big city and we moved to this little tiny town, which is so charming and lovely. It's difficult to, kind of adapt. It was a culture shock in a different way. And so community is huge for me. And so I am the type of person that I will invite you to come over and have coffee, or I will invite you to go and have lunch or something like that, because I desire greatly to get to know people and have a community of women around me. And so I have a discipleship group that I'm a part of. There's 5 of us, and every single month they come to my house and they help me pack all of the boxes so that we can ship them out. And it is wonderful. Such a blessing to me. And before that, it was usually just me and my husband, or my husband and my kids. My daughter's 13. And so she is a huge help when she's home, but she goes to school every day. So mostly now it is this lovely discipleship group of ladies who come over and help me. We have lunch, and then we pack and we chat and we have so much fun. And then my mom is a huge part of that too. My parents are snowbirds right now. And so they live in Florida half the year, and then they live here in our town half the year, which is a huge blessing. They just started that last year. So when they're here, they're a huge part of my team. I'm always like, hey, can you take Jack to soccer practice so I can take Everett to baseball practice? Yeah. Or, can we come over for dinner on Sunday night? And then I'll invite them to our house. And so it's just so nice to have them here when they're here, because they're such a huge part of our lives, and the kids love to spend time with them. So I'm just really grateful for my mom team. And I love that question because really we can't do it all. We said that many times, and we need people. We are not meant to do life alone. And I could say all the cliche things, but they are 100% accurate.
I sometimes say you can do it all, just not by yourself.
Well, and you can't do it all well. Let's just,
Not if you're doing it alone, for sure.
Yes.
So I know there's a mompreneur listening who is going, listen, I am already using every moment. It's full. I have no capacity, no space. So what would you say to her to help her to make that shift, to make space for self-care so that it is a stronger supporting role in her daily life?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of a book that I read by Jessica Turner. It's called The Fringe Hours. I was having a moment where I couldn't remember the book name. It's called The Fringe Hours, and it's by Jessica Turner. And that book is so eye-opening. Jessica Turner is an amazing author. She wears lots of different hats, and it's really cool because she breaks down in the book how she gets things accomplished with a full-time job, wife, mom, all the things. And it was really eye-opening to me to see no matter how busy I am, I actually can make time. I have these fringe hours. And so I'll give an example of when I was super busy, but I still kind of made time for myself. So when we first moved here, I did not have a full-time job. I will say that I was home, but I did some freelance stuff here and there. And honestly, we were just getting by. It was really tough giving up our, salaries and starting a new business. And I found myself at lots of different appointments. My kids were sick a lot. 2 of my kids have asthma and allergies. And then my youngest son, was diagnosed with a rare speech disorder at a very, very young age. And so I found myself constantly either in the car or at an appointment somewhere. And so I actually got this idea from Jessica Turner, but I know a lot of people do this. I kept a book in my bag, in my purse. So I always had something to read. So instead of just, wasting the time away on my phone, which there is no shame, I do that too. But trying to be intentional and trying to take care of myself, I would take the book out instead, and I would read the book that I was reading, whether it was a novel or, some kind of self-help or nonfiction book. And I would take the time and read that, because I'd literally be sitting there for 30 minutes. Just if I wasn't doing anything, I'd just be staring at a wall. And so those are 30 minutes you have, and that you can use to your benefit. And, reading does fill me up. Reading is something I enjoy. So that's just one example. I also could have, instead of taking that time to read, gone outside for a walk. I wouldn't have been far. So if they needed me, they could just come get me in the appointment, but just walk around the building, for 30 minutes and talk on the phone while I'm walking. There are so many ways to fit it in. I don't care how busy you are. You can fit it in, because if you want to make the time, you will find the time. And like I said earlier, what can you let go of? Because there are certainly things that you do not have to do. Right. Unless you've really whittled it down and pared down your schedule, there are ways to fit it in. And so I would just encourage anyone listening who feels like they are at capacity to find something that you can let go of. Find something you can say no to that won't affect things negatively. And look for kind of those crack time, like the fringe hours of time that you can take to do something that you love, even if it is 30 minutes. I mean, just think of how much better you'll feel after you take that walk in some fresh air, or read the book, or call your best friend just to get some encouragement or vent or something. Yeah.
And what I love about that is that's an actual real life example of that jar. We always hear about, you put the big rocks in and then the small, and then the water fills in. And if you led with, I am going to read for 30 minutes, it would start to crowd out the other things. But when you fill that in with the priorities, there's space for both. And so I think 100%. That's just fabulous.
I love that, because I've never even thought of it like that. I mean, I had to go to these appointments. There's no getting around. That's something I could not say no to. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I can't do something while I'm there. So I would say just, look for those moments.
Wonderful. So this has been a great conversation. And as we wrap up, there's one question that I ask every guest. I'm a gadget girl. I love anything that's going to save me time and effort. So what is your favorite time-saving gadget, system, or tool?
I love this question. I used to ask, what's your favorite mom hack on my show years ago, and I got some amazing answers. And it made me think, like, I don't know that I have a gadget, but I will say during the pandemic, or during quarantine, so sometime in 2020, our town finally got grocery pickup at Walmart. And it was like, okay, finally we have something. We don't have a ton of stuff here, so I can't, I don't have Shipt. I don't have, we just got DoorDash like 6 months ago here. Okay. So we just we're pretty far behind on the curve of things to be convenient in our lives. And that was one of the main things I missed about living in South Florida, was the conveniences. I lived 5 minutes away from a Target, and, just other things like that. And so when we finally got that grocery pickup, that is a game changer. And I rarely step foot in a grocery store now. And people would tell me that, like I said, I would ask that on my show, and almost everybody would answer either grocery pickup or delivery. And I'd be like, what is that like? What is that life? And I was like, I need this. And so finally we got it. And I use it religiously every single weekend. And it is the best thing ever. So that is my system that has saved me so much time and money. Right. Because I'm not just like frivolously grabbing at things, and I don't have a kid with me. Man, I wish, like, I don't know how old your kids are, but when my daughter and my son were little, I had to drag them with me every time I went to the store, and it's so miserable. And all of these moms now that are like just now having babies, I am so jealous, because you never have to go to the store with them. And
so many things.
Yes. Have even a tantrum.
Audiobooks on your phone. You don't have to have a CD that you flip out. And, they don't know how good they have it.
They don't. They really don't. We sound so old now. But yes.
I know. Well, I am old. My oldest is 21 and my youngest is 5. Okay. So I run the whole gamut here too.
You do, yes.
Well, great. Well, Jenn, how can people connect with us? And I know you have an offer for listeners of This Mom Knows. Do you want to share that with us as well?
I do, yes. So I would love for anyone listening who is like, I have been listening to you and I really want to try this. I want a solution, or maybe this will be your system to help you accomplish what you need to do to practice self-care. And so you can check us out at mamaneedsbox.com, and I spell that MAMA. And I'd love for you to use the code podcast at checkout, and that will give you 15% off your entire order. And so we have lots of different options. You can do a one-time box. You can do a monthly subscription. You can prepay to just get it to come, every 3 months, 6 months, or annually. And so it is, there's lots of options, and I'd love for you to check it out. And then if you want to listen to our podcast, you can go to mamaneedspodcast.com.
Wonderful. Well, Jenn, thank you so much for your time today. And I know that this is something we all need, and you've given us permission to put it in our lives. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.